In 2008, Malcolm Gladwell comes out with a book called Outliers, where he breaks down how it takes about 10,000 hours to be considered an expert in something. And since then, that's become a gold standard and a benchmark. He then later comes out and interviews online publications to say that catchphrase 10,000 hours, it's much deeper than that. And it's even deeper than around that 9 to 10,000 mark that the brain rewrites itself. There's more to it. 2 years ago on YouTube, the channel Veritasium comes out with an amazing video, the 4 things it takes to be an expert, that builds upon these 10,000 hours. And they say it much better than I do, first off. In the video, they go on to say that it's these 4 other things that alongside time, or these 10,000 hours, that can truly make somebody an expert. And that's valid environment, many repetitions, timely feedback, and deliberate practice. So whereas that's what it takes to be considered an expert, what does that mean for somebody in business or entering entrepreneurship? By no means do you need to be an expert to make money, but it helps if you're good. It helps if you're really good. And in order to get really good, I'm here to say you don't need 10,000 hours for it. You need 30 days. And that's what I'm breaking down in this episode. And with that being said, welcome to episode 22 of Everything Entrepreneurship, the podcast with Kyle Jerome Carter, the place for ambitious employees, working professionals, those climbing up the corporate ladder, and my working entrepreneurs as well. I'm Kyle Jerome Carter, or KJC, full name or initials, it doesn't matter so long as you use one of the two. And today's episode I've been working on, and technically this could and should be a deep dive from the amount of information that I did get. But to not bore anybody out, I'm going to keep it nice and condensed, keep it to the meat and potatoes that you need and that you can apply so that you don't necessarily have to become an expert, but so that you can become really good at what you do. Later on in the episode, because again, it's not about me, this is about you, I'm going to give you an update to how business has been, what I've been up to, and I have a lot of questions I'm going to ask from listeners as well. And before we go another step, I need to take a moment to show gratitude and say thank you for every single person that's been supporting the podcast. Hitting that subscribe on YouTube means everything. We're growing. It's getting shown to more people. The support, the love, the comments, I really feel it. And everything I'm doing is to make the best content for you. We had an amazing masterclass, the best one yet last week, and I'm getting better. And that's not from me. That's from what everybody else is saying. The messages I'm getting, the actual, hey, KJC, I tried this and it worked. And that's what it's all about. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, as I dive deeper into the episode, I want to lay a little foundation as to how we got here. If you've been following the podcast last week and the week before, I specifically said I had to make a midweek pivot in choosing the topic for those episodes because I want to do just a little bit more research as to the topic that I was going to cover. And that topic is this. And that being said, that all comes after I realized that I've put in my 10,000 hours. Been in marketing since 2015, had my marketing agency since 2020, 8-hour, 9-hour, 10-hour days, 6, sometimes 7 days a week. You can do the math. But with that being said, I can go into the shift I felt and when I felt it before this moment later. What I want to take a moment to do now is shine a light on what it means to be an expert and to what it means to really be good at something. Just this week, my girlfriend and I had to take one of our cats to the pet hospital. He wasn't feeling good. He was really lethargic and we could tell he was in pain. Very scary situation. Whereas we had an appointment to take him to the vet the next day, they said, hey, if he's going to the litter box and nothing's coming out, you might see that might be a blockage. You want to take him to emergency. That's life-threatening. And what's crazy enough is when we took him there to the emergency room, we had, in my opinion, one of the best or seemingly the most qualified doctor we could or veterinarian we could to help him. They took him back, and after about 5-10 minutes, he came in, sat down, and gave us a full breakdown of what was happening. You could tell instantly from the level at which he studied this and has to be ready for anything that can come in. It's not the fact that he was saying terms or phrases that my girlfriend and I couldn't understand. It's the fact that he knew them, could break them down, say them frontwards, backwards, tell us the meaning for this, different causes, theories behind it, and then best practices what we need to do, what happened, it was really amazing. It's always, or at least I find, I love working with people that either love what they do or know a lot about what they do. And for somebody that's working a job, it can be intimidating to do what you do and possibly be good at what you do, but want to start something else. There's a form of imposter syndrome. I'm good at this for somebody else to make this paycheck, to make the salary, but the time and energy and effort it takes to learn another skill, I'm too old, I'm not smart enough, that's not for me. But that's further from, and that's further from the case. Now, when most people think about this, I'm not going to say that they consider the 10,000 hour rule. I need 10,000 hours before I do this, because you know, there are plenty of people, me being included and me not being included, that when you start a business venture or side hustle, you find success. Success I define in this example as financial or transactional. You find success in your first, second, or third attempt. But that's not for everybody. There's certain business ventures that I've started and instantly profitable, instantly made sales, right? And then there's others that it took over a year. There's some that I'm midway through that the business venture has not panned out in success in a financial means, right? So whereas sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, there's a good, there's a very high percentage chance that you're in the group of people that success or that financial success won't happen in those first, second, and third attempts. So what it's going to take is more effort. And as you do more effort, you need to put your best foot forward. And to put your best foot forward, you need to show a level of skill, whether it's a product or service. So how do you know when you're good enough or what's good enough to go to market? And again, there are people that can follow directions. There's plenty of business models that it doesn't take skill. It literally just takes following directions. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Present this, and it's a market for, and you make sales. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the majority of people that require to be good at something to feel confident enough to sell, put themselves out there, to market, to make content, to navigate, to have conversations. So they find a level of success. So when I looked over Outliers, it makes a lot of sense. And even more so than that, again, I recommend the video because they do such a good job breaking down the 4 scientific requirements alongside time that you need to become or considered an expert in something. When they say that you need many repetitions, it's true. You don't grow from what you try once, you grow from what you train for daily. Doing something, I always tell people when they start their entrepreneurial journey, somebody that does martial arts, when they're practicing, when they're training, even when they sign up, if they have to throw a punch, they're not told throw a punch 1 time. You might have to throw a punch 20 times, 50 times, 100 times. And the person teaching them, the master, has thrown probably a single punch 1,000 times in one day. It takes many repetitions. Imagine a copywriter that writes 3 headlines daily, or a YouTuber that posts 100 times in a year, maybe 100 shorts, or a basketball player that takes 1,000 shots at every practice. Repetition is huge, and it's one of the 4 keys that you need alongside time to start becoming good. Timely feedback. You need fast signals as to what's working and what's not. You can't adjust what you can't evaluate, and fast feedback makes fast correction. For example, a salesperson that reviews their sales calls after every single day, or a chef that's preparing a meal, taste testing as they add in this or add in that. You need a valid environment. You're practicing in a space where patterns repeat and outcomes reflect your skill. A valid environment means your actions actually impact results. If your space has no patterns, your practice has no progress. For example, like a chess person sees patterns over thousands of games, or a DJ who plays live shows to get an audience's reaction, or a marketer that does dozens of real campaigns in a measurable niche. In deliberate practice, you have to intentionally push your skills just beyond the comfort zone. Improvement, and this quote isn't mine, but improvement doesn't live in repetition, it lives in discomfort. Deliberate means focused, it means frustration, it means growth. Basically, it means being uncomfortable. All of these at a scientific level are required alongside time to be considered an expert after that 10,000 hour mark. So, with that being said, if you need to become good at something, if you need to become not necessarily deadly, but you need to be good or you want to feel confident, how am I going to do that in 30 days, KJC? That might be what you're asking. Well, 10,000 hours, and I got the stats here. 1 hour a day would take 27 years. 3 hours a day at something would take 9.1 years. 5 hours a day would take 5.5 years. 8 hours a day would take about 3.5 years. And if you were to dedicate 10 hours a day to something, it would take 2.7 years to accomplish that 10,000 hours. So what do I mean by good? What do I mean by really good? When I say you want to be good at something, you want to be able to navigate something for the most front and back, answer the who, what, when, where, why, and how, and to have done some deep research into it. I'm here to say 30 days is the key. Not 30 days as in 8 hours a day. I'm talking about 30 days in hours. 720 hours is all it takes to be considered really good at something. And now, granted, there are many people that are going to hear that and be like, 720 hours, that's too much time. I can't manipulate time, KJC. And it is what it is. Would you rather 10,000 hours or would you rather 720? And by no way am I saying that this is the definitive KJC scientific. This is how you apply it. I'll give you some actual examples that show how between 7 and 800, like between 700 and 900, accelerated with these four actually can get you really good at something. So I'm basing this in truth with some facts, but it's not definitive law, if that makes sense. So when I say it takes about 720 hours to get really good, I'm meaning just that. 720 hours dedicated time towards something. And again, is that required to start? No, no, by any means. Again, I already said it. You could easily get started now, follow some directions, have a mutual connection or mutual friend, and boom, you're off to the races. This is in the event that you have to put in the work, because not everybody will get that in the first, second, or third try. So if you hear 720 hours and you think it's a lot of time, which it is, I want to ask you something, or I want to challenge something. And again, this next part is not mine. My business partner said this and it blew my mind away, as you can probably see in one of my previous episodes. What's the gestation period of the side hustle or business you're trying to start? The gestation period of a seed to become a tree is a set amount of time. The gestation time of a baby in a womb is 9 months. What's the gestation time of your business? It might grow to be profitable or bountiful in a week. It might be a month. It might be 17 months. It might be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, who knows? To wait that long, or better yet, not wait that long, to work at it that long is all on you. We don't know. And that's one of the not necessarily scary things about business in general, but that's what we sign up for. We are working to create a system that has an outflow of a second form of income compared to what we're already making. And to do that, nobody's going to hand it to you. So to put in 720 hours that's going to benefit you can only be considered a good option. You're not necessarily wasting your time because you still have that knowledge. For instance, when my company is brought on, we do market research at the beginning of every client. It doesn't matter if they just want a campaign, if they want us to replace their in-house marketing, it doesn't matter. And the market research that we do, on a low end, we might put maybe like 75, 80 hours of market research into a field or industry. And that's if we've already serviced somebody in that industry or field. If it's a industry or field that we're unfamiliar with, then we probably spend anywhere from like anywhere from like 120 hours on, however long it takes. So we have a solid understanding, not just of the business, not just of the company, not just of their moving parts, but where they fit into the bigger picture. And one thing personally I always like about just marketing in general is that I become a not mini expert, but I get a lot of information about these different industries. You'd be surprised how much we know and we compile because we'd be in bad faith just starting the moment somebody signs up. It takes time to make to position yourself as an authority. So if you're at work and you're putting in time for an employer, you have to figure out when you're going to put in time for yourself. So I'm going to break down the 4 different aspects, and they're similar. They're very similar to those scientific additions to time, so you can move ahead as efficiently as possible. Now, if the science shows you what builds mastery over time, these 4 levers are what help you build it faster, especially when you're trying to grow while you're working a 9 to 5. Now, the first level is immersion. You literally, this is deeper than just environment. You want to surround yourself with this daily. Like valid environment, but full life exposure. For example, a content creator who listens, watches, writes, and edits daily, or a language learner who switches their phone to Spanish, or a designer who builds real assets for companies 5 times a week. You want to eat, sleep, and breathe this, as they say. To immerse yourself, let's just say, this is where we're at right here. Let's say you say, all right, KJC, I'm going to give this 30 days. I'm going to give this 720 hours. What are the 4 things you said I need to do? Well, the first thing is you need to immerse yourself within it. For example, I'm learning Spanish and mi español está bien y estoy mejorando, pero it's not where it needs to be, you know? Like if I immersed myself, you'd be like, okay, JC, how else, your girlfriend is Spanish, how else can you, I know, that's on me. We all got to improve. But that immersion alongside time is huge. It's like taking your environment to the highest level. Next, just like they said, is real-time feedback. You don't just guess, you track everything. This is basically a direct match to one of their 4. For example, you want to watch analytics after each post if you're making content. You might want to track cold call performance or ask for live client reviews. Next is reverse engineering. You want to basically break down what's working. It's basically tied to deliberate study. For example, you can recreate a sales page layout and explain why it works. You can copy a successful video script word for word. You can rebuild a top product funnel to learn. Reverse engineering is taking something in the direction or field or industry that you're in that's done sometimes at the highest level and working it back to figure out why it worked. For example, if I'm looking at some of the highest performing ads, I'm going to look at every single ad I can get from the top people across the industry. And I'm going to literally look for the nuance in everything. And I'm going to reverse engineer what it looks like. Then you have intentional repetition. Repeat with purpose, not on autopilot. Combining reps and reflection. Basically like re-recording a pitch until it flows, rewriting your bio 10 different ways, reworking the same design with different time constraints. This is probably next to immersion. Real-time feedback is probably the most important. Intentional repetition is the one that you can control the most. There's a reason why people have 10,000 hours watching Netflix, but they're not an expert. They can't tell you every single field that comes up, every category. Prime example in the video, dude said, I've been playing guitar for like 10, 15 years. Doesn't mean I'm an expert. That intentional repetition, you have to do something. You have to want to push yourself to attain the next level. And that's not the mindset of everybody. But if you're going to take this challenge, if you're going to push yourself to get a dense 30 days, a dense 720 hours, you want to make sure that every single minute is intentional. It's with purpose. You can't be afraid to push yourself. When I was in school, I loved learning. Even more so than that, when my partner's pushing me because he's been in marketing much longer than I have. Whereas I got 10,000 hours. I wouldn't be surprised if he has 50,000 hours. I love not when I get things wrong, because he's hard on me. Oh my goodness, he is hard on me. But it's for me to learn. It's for me to learn so that when we're in front of a client, those mistakes don't happen. And I love when I'm being pushed so I have a better understanding. or when I'm building something out, or if I'm making sure a team member is responsible or something, that I'm pushing myself to become better personally, to become better as a leader, to become better professionally in all these different aspects. You need intention in these repetitions. I remember we were doing a blitz early on when we were doing the transition away from car dealerships to overall marketing, right? Because that's what we do now, overall. Um, and we did a blitz to get clients, and we installed massive action into our approach. Whereas if we did, our inputs were, for example, maybe like 5, 10 a day. We ramped that up. How can we do it to like 80, 90 a day? Is that sustainable? No, but we're going to do that for 20 days and see what happens. Surprise, worked like crazy, right? But what I'm basically getting at is you don't need 10,000 hours. What you need is intention behind the time you put it in. So I did some research to find out what's that sweet spot. Because if it was 1,000 hours, if it was 5,000 hours, if it was 20,000 hours, obviously not 20,000 hours, then that's what it would have been. But basically what I found was this. Let me get it pulled up. Neurological research and immersion studies show that short-term immersive focus, also known as like boot camps, immersive learning, creative flows, often rewrites neurons faster than the speed of our efforts. What does that mean? For example, language learning or immersion programs, people can become conversational in a language within 30 to 60 days using 6 to 8 hours a day immersion. Why? That's because the repetition, the environment, the feedback, and the forced adaptation. Coding boot camps and military training. Many career accelerators are structured as 8 to 12 week, 700 to 900 hour programs, real world proof that compressed reps plus feedback builds real skills. As said by Anders Ericsson, deliberate practice. As I quote, the number of hours isn't the true predictor, the quality and structure of the hours is what matters. So it looks like not just 720 hours is the sweet spot, it's those 700 hours or 720 hours with those 4 scientific approaches, as well as these 4 accelerated mastery focuses: immersion, real-time feedback, reverse engineering, intentional repetition. And again, for all the information that I got, I do think a deep dive would be much more appropriate than a podcast episode. But with that being said, I did want to make a shorter form of this for the person that doesn't want to sit through an hour-long video. If you already are going through conflict at your job, you know you not only want more, but you need more. And you want the confidence behind what you do because your reputation is key. Reputation is everything. What you put out, the world sees, or the world has the capability of seeing. It's much more than a Google review. So it makes sense to want to be good at what you want to do. Some people don't want to necessarily be the best. They say, okay, JC, I just need a side hustle to make an extra $600 a month. I don't need to be the best in the world. I just want an ATM machine. Let me just buy an ATM machine, put it in the right place, boom. It is what it is. You can make money. But for those that want to take things up a notch, those that are entering something that requires being really good, you can do it in 30 days. Parentheses, asterisk, 720 hours. And before you know it, 720 hours goes by like that. I promise you. If you're giving an employer 8 hours a day, you don't have to give your 5 to 9. For those that come to the masterclass, which is literal masterclass, I really low-key need to make it a multi-day challenge because not just it's so dense with information, but it's transformative for people. Like it's like, I don't know, you can do this. And it doesn't take being an expert. All it takes is the intent behind each minute you put in. You don't have every single day after work. You don't have every single weekend. You probably have family problems. Your pets might have an emergency. It throws off your day, your shift, everything like that. You know, what you need is not unlimited time toward this. It's just intentional time. That's why I'm a big supporter of, if you can do an hour a day, at least like 4 days a week or 3 or 4 days a week, you're good. The same way at the gym, you don't need to be in the gym 6, 7 days. You can have a solid physique. You can achieve your fitness goals between 3 to 4 days a week at the gym. It doesn't take all that extra stuff sometimes. But with that being said, I'm going to wrap this part up. We're going to move into, I don't know whose favorite part of the show, part two. What KJC has been up to, how's the business going, all that stuff. Speaking of market research, good. Learning a lot, delivering a lot, excited for Q3 and Q4, you know. Can't speak on much, but I'm just excited. I'm blessed. I'm grateful. As I always say, I'm always blessed that I'm able to go after it every day and what I'm able to be a part of. You feel me? Myself, I had a crazy week. Like I said, we take care of one of my babies, one of my cat babies, Quincy, and his sister Sophia was feeling a little sad. You know, that was scary. I don't want anything to happen to him. We got to put out whatever we got to put out at the vet. So we got special food. We got all this other stuff. Special litter. It's not cheap. Hydrolyzed protein. If I have any cat people that follow the podcast, let me know if your cat has any allergies or has had a blockage or anything like that. Yeah, I'm working on being more intentional with my immediate friends and family because I'm a workaholic. When I realized I hit 10,000 hours, I'm like, golly, are you kidding me? But it makes sense when you work as much or as long as I do. And I'm never the person to say being a workaholic is the cool thing. I honestly and genuinely love what I do. I love working. If it's Saturday, like when I record these on Saturday, I love doing research. I love being up late. But at the same time, I have to distinguish and make these boundaries as I progress and as I get older so that by this time next year, my only work obligations are going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Friday through Monday, Monday and Friday, I'll still get work done at my leisure. But I only want to be obligated to have to get work done on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I'm going to work as hard or as smart and efficient as I have to put my company in a position in which we can afford that. As in, not being held accountable for Monday and Friday means nothing to us financially because we're able to do more than enough within that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But that's me. I've just been reading some stuff. Like I said, reading Outliers book, watching some documentary stuff like that. But I'm not that cool. I'm not that cool, y'all. But yeah, I said I was going to do some questions. So let's do some questions. I put them over here. All right. I remember. Actually, no. 4 or 5 actually start with Hey KJC. In the beginning, I would just say Hey KJC because that wouldn't be in the question. But now y'all understand. When I say Kyle Jerome Carter or KJC, full name or initials, it doesn't matter so long as it's one of the two. That's a real thing. I've had people in the same room as me say Kyle, and I'm like, I just don't respond. Or if they're in my face, I'm like, who are you looking for? Because I'm just so used to Kyle Jerome Carter, KJC. So let's get into it. Hey, KJC, I'm not trying to blow up overnight or be famous. I just want to start something real. What's the first thing I should be doing after work? Well, the first thing you need to be doing after work is identifying how much time and what days after work best for you. You're a real person with a real life and real responsibilities. It doesn't make sense in figuring out what to do if you don't know when you're going to do it. As they say, you're going to block out time. Some people can block out Monday through Friday. Other people have responsibilities that make it so they can only do weekends. What's yours looking like? And once you realize exactly when you can or when you can block out time, that's when we start to get into the actual work you need to do. You need a proper strategy. I suggest that you sign up for the masterclass that I have on Wednesday, because by the end of that, you have your own strategy, not just for after work, but while you're at work as well. Good question. Number 2, where's number 2? Hey, KJC, how did you even get into all this? Like, where did this version of you come from? Well, good question. As I get into making my own content, I realize people have a story. And my story is not a crazy story by any means. I wasn't pinching pennies in my family. By no means were we well off, but we weren't poor. We weren't broke. I had people that supported me, but me, when I was working in retail, I realized I wanted more. I didn't know what that meant at the time. That was entrepreneurship and ownership. As I got to the bank, I realized I'm around people that make a lot of money. And it's not the money that makes them happy, it's the money that allows them to afford the life to do the things that make them happy. I would then hear people talk bad about the owner of a company, like, oh, all bad stuff, negative stuff. And I always looked at the owner like, wow, all they did was put in the extra time to build something that we're able to benefit from, our families are able to benefit from. And I said, that's it. I remember they would say, hey, KJC, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I said, I don't know, but I do know I'm running a business. Um, so I had that inside of me. And then when I met my then mentor, now partner, he said it. He said, hey, you got something in you. You need to go after it. And from that day on, I mean, I was already after it at that point, but that's what really took it to the next level. Like, this drive is in me. Back before I quit my 9 to 5, my family thought I was crazy because I told them in advance. I said, on this date, I'm quitting. That was a year out. Like, yeah, sure. I said, no, I'm quitting. I don't suggest that for many people. That's only for maybe like 2-3% of people. But yeah, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. Not easy by any means. And I'm blessed to have grown through it so I can do for my family. And yeah, a little backstory, KJC. All right, next question. Hey, KJC, I've been in leadership for years, but the idea of building something for myself still feels like a huge risk. What would you do if you were me? Well, when you say leadership, for years, you could easily be a shift manager, assistant manager, whatever it might be. But I'm going to assume that you're in corporate and that you have some sort of, maybe not executive position, but a high, like maybe right underneath director level. And that's when you start to have the golden handcuffs, right? You're old enough that you have a family, you have your salary is tied to so many things. So the thought of building something and jeopardizing that, as well as front facing somebody looking at you and you've been doing so good here, and sometimes you're trying to branch out, it just conflicts. So to not jeopardize yourself, because so much is depending on your income, you probably have some money aside. That doesn't mean that you have to throw it away. That means you have to move strategically, small steps. In this case, and again, if you are if you are an assistant manager or store manager, just regular manager, might not be the case. But if you are at this senior leadership or just been in that high managerial supervisor role, most people tend to look at some level of consulting, basically taking what they do, repackaging it, and going out to the industry to sell that in the form of not necessarily a course, but like seminars, speaking, stuff like that. Um, every move has to be strategic, the same way that you made strategic moves to move up in maybe the company or just your field. You need to take that same thing and apply it to entrepreneurship. You don't want a level of analysis paralysis that most people have, because you're going to be more, not necessarily weary, because you're probably not worried about losing a whole bunch of money. Like, you're probably willing to throw 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 or something. Um, in this instance, a lot of people try something passive or on the side. You don't necessarily need to jump out the window, but if you do want to jump out the window, I do one-on-one consultations. So hit me up at kjc@kylejeromecarter.com or kjc@svsm.us or at Instagram at kyle.jerome.carter, whatever makes sense for you. But regardless, you got this. Hey, KJC, do you still ever deal with doubt or overthinking, or are you past that? Man, it's one reason why I made everything entrepreneurship. If you're a true entrepreneur, if you're on this journey, you know that at 10 o'clock in the morning, you could feel on top of the world. By 10:13, you feel like, oh my goodness, what's happening? While everything is still going well. Everybody experiences ups and downs. My mindset is so ironclad that it's my vision. I got the vision. I know what I'm working towards. I use objective thinking. I know that I'm responsible for other people. So I use that and I allow that to filter through the emotions. So every single thought, every single decision is not emotional or contingent. Oh my goodness, what happens? I'm considering best case, worst case, best case. And I'm making moves forward every single day. So yes, I still deal with doubt. I overthink in different aspects. So it might not be the same way as most people, but there are different things that I overthink about. Let's see, what I want next. Hey KJC, what's the difference between building a side hustle and a business that lasts? That's actually a great question. It's a not necessarily a slippery slope, but there can be blurred lines. A side hustle is literally just that. It can be done on the side, maybe just a little bit of effort, weekends, maybe a day after work, and you're just trying to make enough money to cover a bill or two. You don't want a full operation. In many instances, you don't necessarily need an LLC for a side hustle, but it can help. Whereas a business, you have a long-term intention, and you don't necessarily have to want to look for employees or anything like that, but you do want to create a structure, a system built in the form of an asset of a product or service that can generate money. That's typically what I see. But I'm here to help. But with that being said, I'm going to end this video. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. If you have not already liked and subscribed, hit the button. But without that, with everything else being said, I'm really excited. I hope this was informative. Let me know if I should do like a part 2 deep dive, actual breaking down, like citing sources, stuff like that, of the 720-hour rule, the 30-day rule versus the 10,000 hour. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day.